How do you find a market bottom? Now, I am obviously not talking about the US stock market right now.
Just so I'm clear, isn't it when the Charmin comes out?
Like the toilet paper?
Yeah, so that's how you find the bottom.
Oh my gosh. Wah, wah, wah.
This podcast contains the arguably witty banter of two friends, Skippy and Doogles, that like to debate about investing. The content is intended to be entertaining and for informational purposes only, not investment advice. You should do your own research and consult a financial professional before using any of the information in this podcast, and especially before investing.
Time for some action, player.
Super Bowl week.
Super Bowl week.
As you hear this, one team will be celebrating, and the coach of one of these teams is Kyle Shanahan. I have a funny Kyle Shanahan story for you, right?
Is it that this could be the time where the Suns win Super Bowls together? Is that what you're talking about?
No. Kyle Shanahan grew up in Denver when his dad is coaching the Denver Broncos, right?
Fair enough.
So the Broncos are winning Super Bowls at the time, and he was a mini celebrity just because of his dad. So in high school, if a substitute teacher would show up to his class, they'd be like reading down the list of names, like boring, trying to pronounce this correctly. And then they go, Kyle Shanahan. Whoa, like, are you the Kyle Shanahan? And Kyle would go, no, man, no, it's just a common name. Of course I'm not related to Mike Shanahan. Like, I think that's so funny. He clowned the substitute teacher every time.
That is nice. I like that.
Yeah.
I like
It's good.
You know what I was talking about, though, because to your point there, Mike Shanahan and Ed McCaffrey won a Super Bowl together.
Yes.
They won a Super Bowl together. Now we got Kyle Shanahan and Christian McCaffrey trying to win a Super Bowl together. In the next 48 hours, we will know.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about the Suns. I mean, I think they'll do all right.
The Phoenix Suns?
Kevin Durant, what?
Yeah. Ooh, all right. Everybody, please, right now, drop what you're doing because I'm about to ruin the image and the style that you're used to. Go rate and review the podcast. Thank you. Share this with a friend. Be like Mike, Sally. Listen. Thank you very much. And hit us up with that listener mail. skippydoogles@gmail.com. We love your comments. We love your questions.
Yeah, hold on. There's one other PSA we should do.
Ooh.
The show is considering taking a trip to the Berkshire annual meeting.
Ooh.
And we know there's at least one listener there, but if there's interest in saying hello, if you have a trip planned, hit the listener mailbox with that. That may tilt the scales in our favor of making the trip. So
do we take this show on the road? It could be our first live show.
So many possibilities, Doogles. So many possibilities.
So many possibilities.
Kind of scary to think about.
So many possibilities.
All right, go for it.
All right. Market bottoms. How do you find a market bottom? When is the symbol of pessimism so pessimistic? Now, I am obviously not talking about the US stock market right now.
Hold on. Just so I'm clear, isn't it when the Charmin comes out?
Like the toilet paper?
Yeah. So that's how you find the bottom.
Oh my gosh. Wah, wah, wah.
Oh, who are you talking about? You talking about China?
I'm talking about China. Although I'm calling the bottom of the US stock market today. Doogles is calling the bottom of the US stock market.
Idiotic call, and I'd be willing to make a significant wager.
It would be the bottom. Before we even get into China, I did see the boldest stock market crash prediction this week. Somebody said on February 14th, stocks will peak. That's so specific. Like, we gonna know in the next week whether or not you're right or wrong. So we'll figure that one out. Now back to China. So the Chinese people are angry about the fact that their stocks are getting walloped. The economy, not in a place that they like. You were discussing how if you look at the MSCI China index, go back to early 90s when that was started, and look to today, we're in negative territory. The economy has grown 13-fold over that time period. Stock market, not so good. And the Chinese people are angry about it. And China is shutting off their means of expressing their anger. So where do they turn to? What would you do? What would Skippy do if he was angry about his stock market going down too much and had no avenues for expression?
I think at that point, you got to be shopping the garage sales for deals, right?
Hold on.
I don't know. What am I supposed to do?
I don't know.
Tell me.
You lost the thread. I don't know. Here's what you do. So here's what happened. There's a CNN article about this. We'll put on the Substack on Monday, skippydoogles.substack.com. Here's what people are doing. They are now looking to US social media accounts, and specifically the US Embassy social media account in Beijing, to express their upsettedness. So what happened is the US Embassy on Friday made a post, or I think maybe like a week or so ago, made a post about protecting wild giraffes in Africa. That is the post. Giraffes, they need protection. That's all. The US Embassy is all about that. And what the Chinese people said is, look, all our other avenues of expressing our upsettedness are shut off. So someone looks at this wild giraffe post, and it has 160,000 comments on it, and went, what the heck is going on here? And it turns out that the Chinese people are going on there and saying things like, and I quote, the US government, please help Chinese stock investors. They're not even trying to hide like what they're after. All they want is a little bit of boost. They want a little bit of bolstration going on. That's what's happening. And as I said before, it's likely they chose the US embassies, this is a Weibo page, to protest because the Chinese government's shutting off other outlets they have. And I'll say one more thing, and then I want to get your reaction to this. There's this listed company. So a company that's public on the Chinese stock market. I think it's on the Shanghai stock market, called Huangzhou Yitong New Materials. And this was the attempt by this company to say, like, there's nothing to see here to these angry Chinese. There's a quote. Life is not only about the stock market, but also about parents, spouses, children, and friends. We recommend that investors temporarily leave the stock market, let go of their obsessions, change their mood, and welcome the new year with a relaxed and peaceful mood.
Doogles, this is how you chose to start the show? I'm sorry, guys. It's going to get better.
What? The Chinese are angry.
This is, I mean, like, if we get to the real lessons here, the way you grow as quickly as China grew is you spend a lot of money on real estate and you build ghost towns, and that supports all these other industries, and then it's facade based on debt, and then when the debt explodes, things come back. Like, there's a lot of that going on. There's also that stocks at times in panics on the positive or negative side get disconnected from their fundamentals, and that's what's happening here. I mean, I'll take this. It's unfortunate there's so much censorship that you feel like you have to go to a US embassy post to say help. But going to it, if we did a survey that said, with the Chinese people, have said, like, what's your biggest enemy as a country? Like, the US would be in the top 3. Like, going to your one of your enemies to claim you need help for the stock market is really
would say that. I don't know if the people would say that.
Okay.
This is what I'm saying. You know how, who was it? It was the elder Kennedy was saying that, you know, that the stock market is near its peak when your shoeshine person is giving you stock tips.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm just wondering if you know a stock market is near the bottom when you turn to giraffe posts.
When you're going to a country that isn't your best friend, let's just put it that way.
Put it that way.
Their government, and being like, can you please help?
Yeah,
things are rough over.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's kind of like we discussed how in the late 90s, who was Apple's #1 competitor? Who did they hate the most? Who would Steve Jobs be like, this person I don't even want to talk to? Bill Gates and Microsoft.
When Apple, you get a $300 million loan from them.
Yes. Yeah. Like, you know, ish be bad.
That's and on both sides, right? Because Microsoft is not just giving money away. They have to see a slam dunk business case, I imagine. Like, I need to read a book about that specific transaction. But if I'm in that shoes with my so-called enemy, I try not to really have any enemies, but whatever, and they come to me, I'm not just looking to give money away. It has to work for me.
You got to see a deal or it's just like so cheap. The margin of safety is ridiculous.
Let's continue on that thread with Chinese stocks. So one of the ways you might know the stock market's not at the bottom, but near the top in bubbly territory is if you start to get these riverboat gambler vibes. And even value investors, Doogles, even value investors see all the people printing cash and they go, like, that looks pretty fun. So I'm in a particularly challenging situation. We give research recommendations on the show, not stock picks, but we've talked about Baba, the stock,
Alibaba.
since the start of the show, pretty much, right? Like
Yeah.
going on 2.5, 3 years. And what happened again 2 years ago is I made pretty big bets for Baba and Meta outside of my quantitative portfolio. Meta went up 5x and Baba went nowhere. And now Baba's like even cheaper, really. I'm having a really hard time not turning into a riverboat gambler, being like, I know what's happening here. I know how cheap it is. I know it's disconnected from the fundamentals. I understand it's because it's caught up in the carnage of the Chinese stock market. It's hard. And I'm coming off making like a nice profit on Meta and being like, this is Meta all over again. The parallels are kind of there. Man, what do you use to kind of rein in that riverboat gambler mentality when you're making picks like this?
China.
So true.
I mean, that's all because I've said I agree. When I look at it, I need to not look at Alibaba's fundamentals because it is very difficult to stay away from that stock. But I've been burned enough at this point that it's scurry over there. It's scurry.
Let me say it this way. I think you're exactly right. I think when I decide, because my natural mentality is to find a deal and then research that deal. If I believe in that deal, then put my money where my mouth is and then be patient effectively. Like, and if it dips more, I go, it's the Buffett hamburger quote. Like, we like hamburgers in this family. If hamburgers go on sale at the grocery store, like we buy more hamburgers. I like profitable cash flowing businesses with solid fundamentals that aren't going to go out of business. If they drop in value and nothing has significantly changed about their business model, I want to buy more. But this one's so cheap, and there's other cheap ones in China that I won't touch because I don't know the businesses as well, that I almost can't look at it at current prices without buying more.
Yeah.
So I might just have to like get some blocking technology on my computer where if I type Baba and the computer just shuts down.
If you type in Baba, it pulls up a 200 PE stock, like at random. I think you might have to. As I've mentioned to you, there are two stocks that I'm watching in China, one of which is Baba, and it's so like I have to stay away from both of them because it's so hard to it's just difficult. So difficult. Okay, maybe let's go back to PSA territory. A PSA from the fishbowl because I don't even know what the quality of this is, but I want to read it. There's this academic paper about professional athletes and what it takes from a financial literacy perspective to help them out. And I want this paper, and I cannot figure out how I can get it without paying buku wuku or being some kind of professor. And if anybody has access, let me get the actual name of the paper so that people can help me out if they can get a PDF of this, Jane. One sec.
I mean, I didn't know you were going to like plead with our listeners.
I'm
I know
pleading.
the author.
I'm
can
pleading.
ask the author for a copy of the paper.
But it's called Financial Literacy Content Areas for Professional Athletes. Evidence from a qualitative study in the Journal of Financial Counseling and Planning.
Yeah, let me ask the author already. All right.
However you get it. I want a PDF.
All right.
That's all I want is a PDF. People out there, if you have it, send it over. Skippy's going to try and get through his connections as well. What this seemingly is about is someone had a conversation with 27 people that were like professional sports agents, professional athletes, friends of friends. Someone once ate French fries next to an athlete and tried to figure out what does it take for you to be able to take this short but lucrative career and turn it into a lifetime of prosperity. And I want to know what they came up with.
All right, I'm going to go do a slight side tangent here. It's related. College sports is about to blow up. For those who don't follow it, there's like the NCAA is getting sued right now more than Donald Trump, which I think is impossible. I didn't think it was, and literally there's lawsuits out the wazoo saying you have to compensate athletes. You can't get antitrust violations. It gets pretty complex, but effectively the model is about to blow up. It's probably going to blow up in the next 18 months, if not sooner. And the Power Four conferences will likely pay their players. The real difficult hurdles, sorry, I'm giving too much background, but I think it's relevant, is like the Division III sports that don't make any money. still want to be able to participate in this greater umbrella of college athletics.
Yep.
And there's some legal hurdles if you pay the quarterback at Alabama $2 million a year, that the cross country runner somewhere down the line should at least be able to make minimum wage. And if the cross country runner somewhere on the line makes minimum wage, it makes those sports not viable. And so it could end up with just a large majority of non-revenue sports getting cut. Like it's very complex. But Coach Prime at Colorado and others, but I think Coach Prime is the loudest voice on this, is saying, guys, this is now professional sports with name, image, likeness, with potential revenue sharing that's coming. He wants to effectively mandate financial literacy before you even get, or like the moment you get on campus. And there's a bigger concept here that I think is so important that ties to this paper. These people that spend their entire lives singularly focused on one thing, in this case, it's sports, but there's a lot of people that spend their entire life focused on academic endeavor or some other area of interest. If you go to a place that's extremely lucrative, we almost need guardrails in place that say, before you get this massive paycheck, and I shouldn't say it must happen, but it's beneficial, right? Before you go get your massive paycheck in investment banking, in professional sports and whatever.
I'm gonna one up that.
Yeah.
Just require financial literacy for everybody.
Like in high school?
Or elementary school. Shoot, everybody. Seriously. I mean, this is because we're in a situation we talk about all the time on this pod. How people are looking at numbers and not understanding what that number is when it comes to like our GDP, or when it comes to what growth is, or when it comes to the power of compounding. I think everyone just needs to understand how this stuff works. It'll benefit the entire nation.
Agreed. But we're biased, right? And like what's the Netflix documentary Broke on all the professional athletes that made hundreds of millions of dollars, or like $100 million and went bust. I mean, I think Allen Iverson's an example there. One of the guys on the Celtics did the same. But it's like, yeah, do we think that Allen Iverson had at any point in his life, anyone taught some basic financial concepts? Now, the flip side of that, which I love, and I actually want him on the show, is Floyd Mayweather. Do you know his backstory?
Not as much as you're probably about to spit out.
So, man, that guy is as flashy as it gets with money as anyone I've ever seen. There's a classic picture of him sitting on like a 12-foot long table that's all stacked with $100 bills. And my perception of him was always like that he had poor financial literacy because he just seemed to spend it, and it was all about the show.
He's in real estate.
What happened? Yeah. So what happened to him in his early days is he got linked up, I think by luck more than anything else. He tells a story with some folks that said, hey, let's buy like some New York City real estate. And he did in Manhattan. Now I think he owns like 7 skyscrapers, something like that.
Yeah.
It's not great for him at the moment because his cash flows are down. That's a tough place to be. But still, like basically he stumbled into learning to compound. And a lot of the money he's making now is not from his boxing career. It's from his investments. Like, that's a really cool story.
It is a very cool story. I love that. He's made buku wuku from boxing. And if you can put that money to compound for you, but I know we're biased, but still, I think everyone should just learn financial literacy. And then, but to the point of this paper, again, skippydoogles@gmail.com, please send me a PDF. The point of this paper is that when you go into to your point, a highly lucrative and short-lived career, you really, really need to understand money because it can go out just as quickly as it comes in.
And the psychological studies on the speed at which you make money relates to the speed at which you lose money sometimes, because you don't feel like if you work hard 16 hours a day for 50 years to make a few bucks, you're not going to let that money disappear easily. You're not going to gamble with it because it's like so meaningful. It's so much.
If anybody has seen the movie Blank Check, you know what I'm talking about.
All right. If we're talking, I wasn't sure if we were going to go there or not, but if we're talking about ways to save money, the best way might be loud budgeting.
Loud budgeting.
So this is a comedian. I'm trying to find the guy's name who really, this is a joke, guys, if it's not crystal clear. Lucas Battle was joking about the opulence that you see on social media as it relates to spending. And he was saying, you got to flip the script on this, guys, right? So next time your friend goes, hey, I think this is a real life example. He goes, hey, like, you want to go grab a drink? You go, I do not want to spend $8 on gas and listen to you complain about your ex-boyfriend for 3 hours while I spend $30 on beer.
Yeah.
You just lay it out. You just yell at him. You just say, no, I'm hurting right now. $45 is not in the budget. You want to hop on a FaceTime? But no, we're not. My budget does not allow that, and I'm going to be loud about it. I think it's hilarious.
There was this piece that I read that was talking about how you're friends with somebody, right? Like your college friends. You got your college buddies, and at that point, everyone's in the same place. And so when you're at the dorms, you're saying, "Oh yeah, well let's just you know what? Let's just get the natty ice tonight and a couple slices of pizza," and like everyone's kind of hitting the same way. And
Yeah.
then as life progresses, people start going in different directions, but everyone acts as if they're not.
No, let's talk about this. This is important. I'm not going to name names, but like there's amazingly, I think this plays a role in who you hang out with, sometimes the socioeconomic aspect of it, because there's certain friends groups that are like, yeah, I'm going to Vegas. Yeah, I'm doing this. Yeah, I can hop on a flight there. There's others that are like, no, man, that's not in my budget right now. And even when you have these transparent conversations, sometimes it just means like you fall out of favor with a certain group or another. It's kind of sad, but there's a remedy here. I'm curious for your thoughts. I mean, if you feel like that's going on, I think you can always suggest like you should have some things in your back pocket that are cheap that anyone can do, like a hike or hitting up a park
Yeah.
or that.
But to your loud budgeting point, not your point, the loud budgeting joke
The joke.
point is that oftentimes these things stay quiet. And so someone might be like, "Oh, okay, I'll just do it. I know we're going to Puerto Rico on a whim this weekend. I'm just going to pay it." And then they put on a credit card, and maybe people don't know. Like maybe the back of your head, you're like, "Oh, okay, I didn't realize that they could afford this, but they can. They're always coming." So
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they can. And when it's not spoken, that can be hurtful. So I think but to your point, I do agree. Being mindful of that's super important, but it goes unspoken so many times in both directions. It ends up going unspoken. Where there's like the assumption that someone can take their weekends and go to brunch every weekend, or that they can go on this trip, or they can whatever. Like it becomes this assumption. And it's hard when you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, right, from college and whatnot. So loud budgeting, it is a joke. I know it came up as a joke, but but you don't have to be obnoxious about it. But that conversation, if you're close friends, could be helpful.
I mean, I have to be obnoxious about it, but others do not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be obnoxious. Yeah, I'm just saying,
Of course you are.
you can choose.
Of course you are.
Unnecessarily obnoxious is my middle name. All right, can I reach in a fishbowl for something else? I'm gonna put this under like, can why is everything political now? Like
Exhausting. It's
every little
exhausting.
thing. And some stuff I'm like, why is this in politics? I don't understand. So there's this Atlantic article called "The War on Woke Capitalism is Backfiring." It's by James Sarwicki. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. This is the person that wrote Wisdom of Crowds. So here's the brief deal that's going on. There is this pushback against ESG, environmental, social, and governance. And ESG was a big trend. I don't know if I'm going to call it the last decade. I can't really remember when it started, but basically in the investing world, it was we're going to find organizations that are that have environmental, social, and governance concerns at their heart, and we're investing in the good. We're investing in the good. That's what it's all about.
I think it maybe came from a good place just to say, like, hey, if I'm putting my money behind a product or a company, like, I'd like for that company to have decent values. But then they came out with all these really elaborate scoring systems that, I mean, I'm not saying this is true, but that leads Musk to talking points of like, how does ExxonMobil score significantly higher on ESG than Tesla? Like, or like
Yeah.
the Tesla solar panels. And that's debatable, right? Because how the solar panels get made is not the cleanest for the environment. Like, it's debatable, but it just ended up being a joke, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where, so it's the Atlantic. So the Atlantic has a certain lean, and I'm about to summarize the Atlantic. And the things I'm about to say are going to be predominantly, if not solely, about what I would call kind of stupid stuff that Republican leaning states are doing. I don't mean for this to be an anti-Republican thing by any means. It's just like that's what happens here. But this does happen on both. This kind of thing happens on both sides. To your point, let's just call it. I'm gonna make broad statements. The left in the U.S., the more liberal side, was like ESG, ESG, ESG. The right side was then like what you just said. Well, not even just the right side. I'm just making broad statements. It's like this scoring system that y'all. It's like it's not even really even ESG anymore. Anybody can become ESG. And now there are Republican leaning states that are putting legislation forth. Mind you, the Republican leaning states are generally the anti-regulation free market side of the equation, are putting legislation forth that is anti-ESG. So this thing that is effectively at some point been ridiculed by that same side. And I'm going to talk specifically because this is what's mostly highlighted in this article about the state of New Hampshire and something that they're putting forth. But apparently, at least 20 states have adopted anti-ESG rules, according to this piece. Okay, so New Hampshire, they proposed a bill that would order any government agency investing state funds to ensure that no public money goes to investors who manage their funds, quote unquote, with any regard whatsoever based on environmental, social, and governance criteria.
This is a Skippy policy right here.
Hold on. According to the article, the bill doesn't define environmental, social, and governance. So if you just take that at face value, you cannot use governance as criteria for why you would or would not invest in a fund. You cannot say that the CEO's paid too much. You cannot say that the board composition is something that I wouldn't agree with. You can't say, you know what I mean? Like governance?
Sounds to me like they want Skippy in riverboat gambler mode, loading up on Baba and saying, let's ride. This is sorry, I'm making jokes over here, but like it's hilarious on so many fronts. It's hilarious that a side that says we want free markets is trying to ban things, whether it's books or investing methodologies. It's hilarious that they don't define ESG. It's exactly what you said to start this. Why does everything have to be political? Like this is just, you guys should have better things to do. De-emphasize it. Have a conversation with your leadership team. I mean, just say, guys, we think this has gone a little too far. Let's adjust course. There's no reason to make laws around any of this nonsense. The pushback was that the scoring systems got to be garbage. Well, don't pay attention to the scoring systems. You don't have to create a law about it.
So like what, you can't invest in Tesla anymore? I'm not saying they should be, but
I don't know if they can or not.
I can't take any environmental consideration into account or else it might be illegal. What do you do with that? And the claim is that this makes sure that the people that are running and managing the state funds are only considering their fiduciary responsibility. That was already the case.
Yeah, right.
You don't need another law that actually restricts their investment choices. This has nothing to do with investing. This only has to do with like symbolic point making. Come on now, Silladil. And again, like I said at the beginning, this is not against any certain side. I'm just like the silliness that occurs when I'm looking. Yeah. Just like, come on, people. Let's just make the point. All right, what you got next?
Yeah, I wish I had something intelligent to say, but I just don't. It's just exhausting that everything's political. And then again, Doogles, you ruined the show by talking about it. Nice work. Excellent job.
Well, I got to start by ruining the show. Then I got to end by
ruining the show. Our intern's super pissed at your choice of topics today. All right. So when's the last time you sent $25 million out the door to some evildoers who are defrauding your company? Did that happen this week to you, Doogles? Or
it's all I do because I figure they need it more than I do.
I just look for the ESG companies that aren't profitable and try and send some cash their way.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
What we're referencing here is a pretty elaborate scam. And I have a decent background in fraud and scam, and this one's pretty impressive. A finance worker at a multinational firm was tricked into paying $25 to fraudsters using deepfake technology. There's the first sentence of this article. Again, this is from CNN. In a multi-person video conference. So if I understand this correctly, not only did they get the CFO and make a deepfake of him, but they got a few other people in the finance department or the accounting department. I'm not sure exactly. So the fraud was more complex than just saying, "Ooh, hop on a Zoom with the CFO." We only have one fake person to make. No, they made several. And then there were it sounds like some nefarious emails going back and forth and, your typical fraud stuff. But on top of that, when they say, listen, I know this sounds like an odd request, but let's hop on with your top talent in the organization to confirm in what seems like face-to-face conversation, even though it's a video conference. The dude sent the money out the door and it's a mess.
I really want to see this video. I know it probably doesn't exist. I really want to see it.
The way the article is written, I almost think, there's probably not a recording, but they did some fact checking on the back to confirm it's a multi-person thing, to confirm maybe it's in the Zoom logs or something. You could tell like who joined and when. And yeah, I really want to see the video too.
And you're telling me, because this was in Hong Kong, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me that every video call is not recorded and sitting somewhere
in Hong Kong. It is.
But that doesn't mean I'm ever going to get to see it. I really want to see this because that is freaky. And especially even, us, if we were to watch it now, we would know that it was a scam. Like I want to watch it from the perspective of knowing that it's a scam and still see how good it is.
Yeah.
Because the Taylor Swift scam thing was not very good. Like, did you watch that video? When Taylor Swift was hawking. Oh, sorry. Taylor Swift did not do anything that I'm about to say. There was a deep fake of Taylor Swift on like an infomercial type giveaway campaign.
Selling crypto or something?
It wasn't crypto. It was like, if you come and I can't remember what it was. So I'm going to make this up. If you like this account 1 million times, then we're going to give away 1,000 toasters. It was like something ridiculous like that. It was obviously not Taylor Swift.
Wait, have we thought about that to promote the show? It's a great idea.
I mean, but not Taylor Swift. Sailor Nift? Michael Sailor Nift? Yeah.
So I want to see the video too, but it's interesting. I don't know the level of this employee, but maybe they're 3 people away from the CFO. Like,
if you can
maybe they've never had
mil,
a face-to-face conversation.
If you can ship 25 mil, you have to have some authority.
Depends on the size of the organization, man. Some of these AR and AP departments are sending out hundreds of millions a day. Okay. And this is what happened seems to have happened in fraud over the past 20 years is people were scamming the mom and pops that are 70 years old, and it's pretty easy, but you're only getting a couple $1,000 at a time. If you go to the right level of business, your hit rate might be lower, but you might take 5 million, 25 million per scam. Like it,
especially if you did it at the same time. If you did like 10 of these at the same time, so that they're.
Oh, that's what they all do, man. Yeah, you hit the blast and you just try and get the point.
It's like Godfather.
1%. Yeah.
It's kind of scary.
Super scary. So here's my take. I actually think this is going to force people to get back together face to face.
Oh,
I really do, because in my line of business in the past 6 months, I've sent fraud warnings about people sending voicemails as me or a founder or CEO. I've sent this deep fake video. Like, it seems like every month there's some new sophisticated scam, the 2-factor authentication hacks, like all these other things that it's just like, you're going to have code words. Maybe you're going to have all these other security measures in place because you really can't trust a video call anymore.
You know what I've gotten multiple of in this past, I think just the past 7 days, but it might be the past 14, but it's that recent. Multiple in my personal email account. Emails from like Chase, Wells Fargo, like that level of bank that have said some version of your account has been compromised, like legitimate colors of the organization, and like open up this PDF to see the information.
Yep.
I've gotten multiple of those. I haven't clicked on any of them because if you know what to look for in these types of phishing scams, like it's fairly obvious, but they're taking advantage of emotion. So you don't look at the stuff, generally speaking. But yeah, I've gotten multiple of those. It's on the rise. But people know I'm not leaving you a voicemail. I'm not responding to your multi Slack thread. Like if there's multiple people in an email or a Slack thread, I'm not responding to that.
Oh,
If
so
there's
your laziness here is just it's fraud protection?
exactly, I'm not doing anything. I'm doing nothing. If the person trying to defraud you is doing anything, it's not me.
There's one other scam I should mention that we're seeing, which is when people publicly announce new hires on LinkedIn,
Mm.
then at like senior levels, scammers will identify that information, pretend to be like the CEO, and shoot them with some crazy texts shortly thereafter, like week 3, week 5 on the job, and be like, I need you to do this urgently. Go buy X on your credit card, send this over, like, because it's public. So
Yeah,
stuff's scary, man.
it is.
Super
Just
scary.
do nothing. It's impossible to be defrauded if you do nothing.
There we go.
Ready here first. Oh, that's
Anything
all
else in your fishbowl?
No, that's all I got.
All right, y'all. We'll see you next week.
Appreciate you.